Hello and welcome to Brax will let you know, one voice at a time. And today I have a very special guest. Care to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sydney Dubois. I'm a senior at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm studying environmental science with a minor in theater and certificates in GIS and sustainability. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm super excited to talk about just the environment, earth, sustainability, and like all the different nuances that brings with like race, gender, stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you. We always start off with a quote. And today's quote is I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. So today, this episode is inspired for Earth Day. And I love the earth. I gained like a super passionate attraction to it, like in the past summers and books and like just like being immersed in it. And so I really wanted to dedicate this time as well as introducing the world to Sydney, Miss Sydney Dubois, and her platform and her amazing like activism towards Earth and all that. So the first question is for you, what does this Earth Day mean to you? I know like you had to get your vaccine and everything, but if you want to expand on like Earth in general or like the Earth Day as a whole, that would
Yeah.
be cool.
I would say this Earth Day, I think, was very important. Like to me, I think it was definitely like a full kind of switch from like the last Earth Day with us being like fully quarantined and like just seeing like the progress that we've made. Like literally this Earth Day, I got my second COVID vaccine, which is completely different from last year. And I think the pandemic in general has given us like just an appreciation for the outside and like for nature. I think a lot of people have found an escape from quarantine and isolation by going outside, going on daily walks, like, and as silly and like mundane as it is, like it's been like there for people to enjoy. And I think hopefully it's gained a greater appreciation. I've definitely seen more people like talk about Earth Day this year and like say things, but I kind of like to see the follow-up. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like Valentine's Day where it's like, oh, you can show love on a specific day, but it's also important to show love like throughout the year. So I feel like I love Earth Day, but I also love to see like the people who are posting about Earth Day like actually doing things to like combat climate change and stuff like that. But I don't know, I feel like for me it was just really nice to get out. I don't know, I just have tried to be in nature more this year and it's been so refreshing and rewarding, just physically, mentally. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So I love your sustainable Instagram page. What inspired you to do it?
Yeah, so I started that account on a whim, literally, I think March 2020. So did not know the
Oh wow.
omens were gonna start with the pandemic. But for me, I recently got into environmental science. When I first came to Pitt, I was a pre-pharmacy major, guaranteed track. Like I thought I really wanted to be a pharmacist. Um, I just kind of liked chemistry and like science stuff. And then I went to Pitt. My first year, I was like, I'm not really as passionate about these courses as some of my friends are. Like, I'm like, this isn't maybe like what I want to be doing. And so I started a plogging club where we run and pick up garbage around like the campus. And I was like, whoa, I forgot how much I love the environment. And I was like, oh, if only I could like major in it. And I found the major. And so like as I found the major, got into my environmentalist fraternity, I just was more immersed with like the environment. And so like I would just do things around my friends or just let my friends know different things. And they're like, oh my gosh, like people would come to me for advice on like how to be eco-friendly for certain things. And I was like, oh, like it'd be so much easier just to like have an Instagram and like make an Instagram. And so I did like just on a whim, and it's like low-key I'm growing a following, and it's been really nice because I've built a different community. And for me, I've gotten to see like a different side of environmentalism, because I will say before that, in my classes and like in my fraternity, like I was one of the only few like people of color, especially like Black people. And so like gaining my Instagram has allowed me to like join a network of like people who look like me, or just not having it be so whitewashed with environmentalism, which I think is so important. So I think just starting it was kind of on a whim, but now I feel like it's nice because I get to learn more, but I also get to teach other people. And I try to have like a judgment-free like zone, because I think there's a lot of different things that go into like the environment and like sustainability. And so I want to make that as welcoming of a space as possible, just because there are a lot of like ideas that people have that like kind of push people away from, you know, the environmental specter. So
Awesome. Yeah. I know you mentioned it before, but something that is sort of unique about these times is that I guess like many people right now have the time or the ability to pay attention to what's going around in the world and social issues. So what are some of the ways that we can be more sustainable right now?
yeah, so I kind of loved your quote at the beginning, because I feel like it goes along with like my kind of mentality when it comes to sustainability and like what we can do to help the earth, because it should not only be on the people. Like, I don't like when corporations like kind of force things like, oh, like, you guys need to stop using straws and do this, because it's like,
Right, and they spilling oil in this whole ocean, huh?
literally. I think like in 2017, I don't know if like the stats have changed, but there were 100 companies like causing 70% of like the greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm not, it's not to say that like what you do doesn't matter, because it does, but I think there also needs to be like pressure on our government, pressure on our corporations, like what we buy, what we, you know, put energy into. So I think like the best thing you can do is definitely, like, I know people always say it, but like write to your senators, write to your governors, like vote for people that like align with you environmentally as best as you can. I think especially here in America, it's a little, I don't know, like the Green parties and stuff are just like Earth policies with like US politics is a little messy, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to look up. So voting for people, not just like, you know, presidents, but like locally, especially, that are gonna care about the issues that you care about environmentally. I think looking up companies, I think like a lot of greenwashing is going on. If you don't know what greenwashing is, it basically is when companies like are like, oh, we're super sustainable and eco-friendly, like do this thing, and then they're not, but they like trick people into think they're like eco-friendly. So I think that's important to like kind of research companies that you're like looking into. I would say with the pandemic, I've done a lot more local shopping. Like I've been on like just Etsy a lot more, and just like local places like within Pittsburgh. And I've kind of like enjoyed that a lot. So I'm gonna kind of try to incorporate that into like my regular, you know, like routine post pandemic. I think it's like great to support local businesses, especially Black owned businesses. But my main thing is like, do what you can. Like, I don't think that you're not an environmentalist if you aren't vegan or if you aren't vegetarian, because sometimes that's not accessible to people. And I think people need to understand that like people live in food deserts. There are like mostly communities of color that don't have access to as many grocery stores, but have more access to fast food, have access to liquor stores. So I think it's important to know like kind of like socially how it's kind of disrespectful to equate being an environmentalist with certain tasks and certain like lifestyles, because that's not accessible to everybody. So
or
I'd
even
like to
social
say,
statuses.
yeah, no, the most sustainable things that you like, the most sustainable things are the things you don't buy. Like, I don't know, I feel like also with like companies, again, like with capitalism, it's like, oh, you need this like water bottle to be sustainable, or like you need these like thingy things. It's like, no, if you use the stuff that you buy and you use it, like that's fine. Especially with like fast fashion and stuff, like people, fast fashion is horrible, but if that's what people can afford and they're wearing it all the time and they're using it, like that's fine. It's like when you have influencers and celebrities who are like doing hauls and like buying billions of things and like that they don't need, and are showing like this lifestyle of like, oh, more is more, and it's like not really, like, I don't know. So I think like do what you can. If you can eat meatless a few days, do that. Like I feel like I'm a flexitarian, so I used to be a vegetarian like in high school for a while, like 3-4 years, and then we went to Europe actually, and that's when I stopped, because I was like, oh, I want to like try new cultures like through
Oh,
food.
really?
But I'm so open to like vegan stuff and vegetarian stuff. Like I try to eat that as much as I can, but I'm not like strict about it. So I think that's been helpful. Like, I don't know, there's so much you can do. So I don't want people to think that they're confined to like what other people say is environmentalism and sustainable, because you can
That's
really make it your own.
Yeah, and normally the people who do that, sometimes it's strictly based on economic status, like stuff that you can buy. And I was talking to you before this, and the image popped in my head too of like sometimes the how do I say this? The lower to middle class is sometimes one of the most like resourceful. And I was telling you before of like sometimes our families have passed down pots that's been used for generations, or even me personally, I still have shoes and clothes that I've worn from high school and that I still wear today. And so it's just like, and it's not because like I don't wish to buy, sometimes I don't want to buy clothes, or I don't have the money to buy the clothes right now, and so I use it for something else, but I'm still being resourceful in like recycling and reusing. And just I think we are more resourceful than we think. Um, but the image of which like shows the way up to be like,
that's how I feel about like thrifting. Like
yeah,
there's so many people like who thrifted and like I don't know, I
right,
feel like
people have been
thrifting
doing this.
they've been doing this, and I feel like thrifting has been a thing, especially just I don't know, I feel like I thrifted before it was like, I don't say before it was cool, but like I feel like there used to be like a big stigma on like thrifting. You're like, oh, you're wearing someone else's clothes.
That's how
Like
my mom would be. I'm like, baby, I washed it. It's washed.
literally.
Yeah, I love thrifting, and it's so, and that's another thing. It brings creativity and identity and
Yes.
individuality. But yeah, it's very unique. It's very unique.
Definitely like a gentrification of like environmentalism, which is interesting. So
Yeah, and I guess I'll mention what I was telling you before of Black and brown people relying on nature, especially in slavery or enslavement times, of like using the rivers or using the moonlight or the starlight to like guide their way home,
yes.
or like it's just been passed down for generations. And even I'm thinking about like before enslavement in like times in Africa where it's just more what's the word, connected to like the earth as a living being, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think that's so weird, because then like at some point there's that separation of like, oh, I don't belong outside. Or like I used to think, like when I was rushing my fraternity, I was nervous because even though it was like an honors environmental fraternity, I was like, oh, I don't, my family, like we don't hike all the time, and like I've never been like really camping, and like I've never been like in nature besides like random walks I take and stuff I do. And I feel like I've never skied or snowboard. Like I was like, I'm not environmental enough to like be in this space. And like so glad I made it in, because they really opened my eyes about like what environmental and oh my god, and like what it is to be like in the environment. And like I just think that's so crazy that there was this connection before, and that like now people don't think there is, like they aren't connected to nature even though it's free. Like I think that's so weird, because nature is free. Like you don't have to pay to be like in a park, but there are people that feel more comfortable being in that park than other people. And I think there's just like a craziness to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So a question for you is, what would you like the world to look like in 100 years from now?
Oh, 100 years, that's so far. I would just say I just want like a life that is sustainable. I think I get kind of sad when I think about just like the earth changing and like animals going extinct, because I think for me growing up being in nature was such a big part of like just growing up. Like I just remember all the different seasons so vividly. Like when it snows, you're so excited to go like sledding and to be outside and to feel the cold. And like when it melts and like spring happens and all the bees and the like animals come out. And I think that's so exciting. And I just feel like there's so many vivid memories I have being outside with my family, with my friends, just playing around, and being exposed to like the environment, that I think it would be a shame if like children in the future like don't get to experience that. um I think like for me that's something that's really important, especially like with like growing up and thinking about like if I want kids and stuff. It's like I want kids, but it's like I don't want them to like be in a world that like is a danger to their health, is a danger to like just like not what we've experienced. And like not even us, because I feel like older generations have gotten it so much better where they've like experienced so much and like are actively doing things to like prevent others from being able to experience like the world they got to see. I think it shouldn't be a privilege to be able to live, and it shouldn't be a privilege to be able to enjoy nature and to have nature. And I think like just I just want us to realize like it's humans are not the only thing on this earth, and we're not the most important thing on this earth. Because grand scheme, like the earth will be okay. I don't know, people are always like protect the earth, like save the earth. I'm like, no, the earth will be fine. The earth will
Yeah.
adapt and it will literally like get us out of here because we're the problem. So I think just a more sustainable economy, like a circular economy would be great, where it's like we make things and it doesn't have to be like this thing is broken, like it's dead, like it's this thing is broken, like can I fix it, can it be used for something else? Like I think just like more just thought about what we create, what we do, like our actions. And just I think also just like I don't know, just energy, like love. I don't know. I feel like for me, like compassion for like the earth and like others go hand in hand. Like I think like environmental justice is so important, and you have to have like intersectionality because that goes along with environmental racism, that goes along with like environmentalism. So you
You
can't
mind
like
kind of talking a little bit about environmental racism? Like what it
yeah. So basically I'm still like learning about it myself, but what I've kind of come to realize is that like there are environmental things that are racist. So kind of going back to like food deserts, like that is something that's inherently racist. Like it usually comes from like redlining,
mm-hmm.
which is where they would like point out different areas of like this is where like money wise. And so because of slavery and like not having like generational wealth, a lot of people of color, black people, end up in these lower income communities, and they like kind of gatekeep different resources like different schools, different like I don't know, resources like grocery stores, stuff like that, parks, which is also kind of where I'm sure like the beginning of like the separation begins with people of color, black people, lower income people with the environment, because it's like it's not in their like
Right.
surroundings. But like even here in
That's
Pittsburgh,
interesting. Yeah. There's no
we have
sidewalks.
yeah, it's insane. Like we have an instinct of environmental racism here in Pittsburgh because some of the lower communities have like they're the closest to like different steel mills that used to be here, like when Pittsburgh was like a steel place. And just the air quality in those places is so bad, and it's not people's fault who live there. Another example here in Pittsburgh is McCandles. It's like this wealthy company, and they like with their factories and stuff like that, they just put it in the water, I think I've heard, and it goes straight down to like this other place called Millvale, which is said to be like lower income and stuff like that. But we've done a lot of service this semester with my frat with Millvale, and it's a great community. And I think it's really about perspective of who says like what communities are, but like there are other communities that are affecting other ones without a cause of mind, just because it's a different, like economically it's not a matter to them, like it doesn't matter to them like where this goes because they can afford it. And so I think environmental racism is important to acknowledge, because like I think environmentalism needs to be intersectional. Like it needs to care about women, it needs to care about people of color, it needs to care about black people, it needs to care about Asian people. Like it needs to be intersectional because these are all people who are affected by climate change. So I think you can't
And
be an
even then,
environmentalist.
like all of those communities exist in this environment.
Yes.
Like We are the environment.
Yes. So I think that's been interesting, especially because like on my page in the summer, I was doing a lot of like social justice stuff, which I thought was like some people not thought it was weird, but they're like, oh, that's not really like connected to environmentalism. And I'm like, it definitely is, and it needs to be. And if you don't think it is, like, that's a bigger problem. So that's been fun to kind of like weave the path of like social justice, but also like environmentalism and how they go hand in hand. So yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Thank you.
At the end of all my interviews, I always ask, is there any advice or wisdom you wish to share with the audience?
I would say my favorite quote, I'm gonna butcher it, so if you can like find it and like put it in there the right way, but it's like you don't need to do like, see, I'm already like messing it up, but it's like we don't need 100 people doing like environmentalism perfectly. We need like millions of people doing it imperfectly. And I think there's so much pressure on people to be like, I'm a vegan and I have all my waste in like this little jar. And I think like it's important to take a step back and to realize what are you able to do like sustainably. Like it is a right and a privilege to care about the environment. I like to say that people aren't going to care about the environment unless their other basic needs are met. So if you don't have shelter, if you don't have food, if you don't have water, you're not going to have the mental space to care about the environment as much as you would like, because your survival is kind of like the most important thing at that moment. So I like to just kind of like not shame people, and that like you can keep learning. Like I don't know everything. Like I'm far from knowing everything, and I have a lot of imposter syndrome about not knowing everything about the environment and about climate change and sustainability. But I think for me, like just knowing that you're always going to learn, and to like to learn from other people has been like so important for me. But yeah, I would plug my Instagram if you want to like check it out. It's at sid_stainable. I would love to like have new faces, just see what people want to learn about, see if there are things that people can teach me, and just to take care of the earth and your body, because you only get one of both. So it's important to take care of them the way you should and you can. So that's all I have.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Is there anything else you wish to share or promote?
I'd say subscribe. I love Braxton so much. And I love your channel.
Thank you.
But yeah, just live in the way that you need to. I don't know. I just feel like literally leaving this interview, I feel so like inspired and like pumped and uplifted, which is what I need for finals. So
awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I right before this, I went on a bike ride, and I was just like, you know when you stand on the bike and you're just like your head is in the trees.
Yes, yes.
It's so freeing. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I took some pictures of some really pretty flowers on my way back home. But
you like capture nature so well. I feel like all your Instagram posts with like when you're like, oh yeah, I've recently got into like nature and the environment, like that with like the poetry with it too, or like your captions are always like so good. I don't know.
Thank you. No, I've really like, I guess this goes with Earth Day, but like nature has really been, I don't know, like it's a spiritual connection. Like sometimes I get answers from it, not like yes or no, but like answers like if I'm looking at if like I was at Lake Michigan one time, and like just seeing the infinite water just reminded me of like the unknown, and like how like you never know what's beyond the horizon, but like you still have to make that travel. And like I was in the midst of like college and stuff, so it's just like sometimes I just get a like dope connection from nature, and I'm very appreciative of that.
It is so healing. Like I think a lot this semester I've been studying like outside when it's been nice, and it's been like just like refreshing. Like I don't know, it's like I feel so burnt out when I'm like in the library or like in my room studying, and then I can go study outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
what is this?
It just feels so different. Like I just feel like I'm being like recharged by the sun. So
beautiful. Thank you, Earth.
Thank you, Earth.
Thank you, Earth. Well, thank you again, you all, for joining us. Thank you, Sydney. And once again, this has been Brax to Let You Know, where we are using the voices in this world for the change we need in the world. and we will see you next time.
Bye.